I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast,
Pop Culture Pastor.
So Cody, I don't know if you're aware of this. I don't know how aware the listeners are. Do people listen to the news?
Well, I don't know if it's even on the news. It depends on what you're talking about, honestly.
Well, apparently there's a tuberculosis outbreak. I just wanted
TB.
I was
It's back.
like, Doc Holliday, run! No!
I have seen how this movie ends.
Don't worry. The Kansas Health Department said that there's no major concern for the general populace.
You know what, Dave? That's probably what they said about rabies.
About rabies?
And it kills nearly 4,000 people every 1,000 years, buddy, in America.
Oh, man. Michael Scott never fails, man. Michael Scott's looking out for us.
He is.
He is. So
The Superfan episodes give you a little extra something, and I love that they had a You Ought to Know commercial.
Yeah. It's like a separate video, and Michael Scott is in, like, he's got his shirt untucked. He looks all loose. Yeah. It's so funny. So stinking funny.
The more you know.
The more you know. This is, by the way, like Facebook, mark us safe from tuberculosis. We're okay.
Right now.
I can't. We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Name it and claim it.
Yeah. This is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. My name is Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And we've got a great show for you today. We're very excited. It's a Pop Culture Lately episode, which most of the time is just basically me and Cody talking about what we've been into lately, what books we've read, what that we don't talk about on the pod, what TV we're watching that we don't talk about on the pod.
You might hear a little bit that we have talked on the pod, but it'll be like brief.
Yeah.
Super brief.
So what we tried to do is to make this kind of episode that we repeat every once in a while, just to spice it up a little bit. We thought, well, what if we asked the listeners what they've been into? And what if we asked other podcasts? What if we had a guest on, like in this case, comedian Taylor Johnson? We asked what he'd been watching lately.
Honestly, he has a great shirt.
Cody, if you don't know this, Cody is a fan of unique t-shirts.
Yes.
And I mean, every time you see him, he will be wearing, he's even when he's working, he's got a nice like corduroy looking jacket thing on right now, but there's a weird t-shirt underneath.
It would be Uncle Howdy from WWE.
Oh, it's a wrestling t-shirt.
It is a wrestling shirt today.
Yeah. Anyways, my point is Cody's like got his own kind of style, but it always looks good. I mean, you like, listen, compared to me, you're a clothes horse. I mean, I wear hoodies most of the time, just who I am. But
nice cardigan will spice up any lackluster tee you have.
No one will ever say cardigan and it not remind me of Dumb and Dumber. Pull over. No, it's a cardigan, but thanks for noticing. I love that joke. Okay, we need to get to some news. Cody, are you familiar with the Anthony Mackie news this week?
I'm familiar with the Anthony Mackie. That's
Mackie.
about as far as I go.
We know who Anthony Mackie is. Anthony Mackie, of course, is the actor who plays the Falcon in the MCU movies. And now, of course, he's Captain America, as Steve Rogers passed the mantle to him after Infinity Endgame.
Evidently.
Yeah. And so he's getting ready to, by the way, we will review this movie, most likely, here on the pod. Captain America Brave New World comes out next month.
New World Order.
Brave New World Order, or whatever it's called. That's the whole title. But he's on the press tour, and he was in Italy, I think. And actually, I don't know. People went crazy. So let me tell you what he said.
What did my friend Anthony say?
According to The Hollywood Reporter, the actor turned heads when he said this. For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things. Someone who's trustworthy and dependable. But he said not so much America. I don't think the term America should be one of those representations. To which I saw a lot. I think the initial reaction was his name's literally Captain America. Which, yeah, but don't play dumb either. You know what he was talking about, right? But, it became, because it always does, it became like this political thing almost, where people were kind of pouncing on him, calling him woke. So you didn't hear about any of this?
No. Which is, I'm going to blame the Chiefs. It
was the refs!
My ex news feed has gotten a lot less pop culture-y and a lot more sportsy.
Oh, man.
And so, completely missed it. I will say that maybe Captain America is the ideals that we espouse as Americans that we don't carry out. And that we're always seeking to do the just thing, and that we're righteous, and that we're honest, and that we're hardworking and caring, and we come up short all the time. And I think that you could go that route if you wanted to say, oh, Captain America definitely is about America, but what we claim we are, just not who we are.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I just couldn't believe it, but then I could believe it because this is kind of what we do now. We live in an outrage culture, and there are a few reasons why I think this is a big nothing burger. Okay, I'm going to go through all three. One is when we do this outrage thing, we're not really outraged. We just want to be right.
In your face, Anthony Mackie.
No. I'm actually defending Anthony Mackie.
I know. That's why.
Yeah.
People.
You were role playing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In your face, Anthony Mackie.
So people intentionally won't get too deep into what it is he was trying to say. They'll just take it as shallow as possible so they can remain upset or angry or faux angry, as it were. Because I actually don't think people are really that upset about it. They just we want to be outraged. And so it's performative in a way. So number one, I think they didn't even try to dig in to see what he meant. Because if someone says something I don't understand, my first impulse is,
what do you mean, buddy?
What do you mean? Clarify that. Because I want to hear more about that. Go a little deeper. Two, something you kind of touched on there, the character of Captain America is you gotta separate them into the people who've been Captain America. Now, Steve Rogers, who's blonde hair and blue eyed and literally from the 1940s.
Yes.
Has a completely different vision, view, and thought process and image of America
than does Falcon Captain America.
Yeah. And to me, like, so when I first heard this, I was like, actually, this would have been a better plot than the entire show of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Burn notice.
Have him take the mantle or be struggling with taking the mantle of Captain America and have him say the exact same thing and have a big uproar about it. So you can actually dig into what he's trying to say because, yeah, at the end of the day, like, yes, the Falcon, Sam Wilson, is going to think differently about the mantle of Captain America. When you say Captain America is all about these ideals, what you mean to say is Steve Rogers is all about those ideals.
Except Hydra Steve Rogers is not.
Because there's been plenty of dudes who've worn the mantle of Captain America who did not stand up for those ideals. One of them being the guy who was in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the
Wyatt Russell.
Wyatt Russell, who becomes the U.S. agent.
I'm just saying Wyatt Russell.
And so, like, yeah, it's just there's so many ways that this is a big nothing burger. And the third reason, I didn't get to my third reason. The third reason is we jump on the things people say in these dumb little interviews, and we don't even think about the humanity involved. That this is just a human who's out there doing a press junket. And he's out there trying to, like, he's sitting at a dumb little table with journalists who are asking dumb questions. And he's trying to give serious answers or interesting answers to dumb questions. I think we do this in athletics too. Like when the coaches get interviewed after the game and then we'll jump on something they said or the athletes. It's in this venue too where you're just like, They're just trying to answer these dumb questions. And I guarantee you they think they're dumb.
My friend Patrick Mahomes does not care for them, and he gives the most vanilla answers ever, because he's like, no, you're not going to get any locker room quotes out of me. You're not going to get anything that means anything. You're just going to get the same rhetoric over and over and over, unless he is on a podcast that he likes, such as New Heights.
Yeah.
And if he wants to come on Pop Culture Pastor, he may.
Always. Anytime. So all I'm saying is, like, my whole view of it was, oh, this is about nothing. This is dumb.
Yeah, I don't think that even if I had a super strong opinion that I would be that outraged by it. It is what it is. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what question prompted that. If we had Anthony Mackie on the show, my first question would be, this movie better not suck. And then he would say, that's not a question. And I'm like, oh, but it is. Come on, Marvel. Quit crushing my dreams. I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping that last rewrite was the one.
I'm rooting for you, buddy.
We got Jake Gyllenhaal news and M. Night Shyamalan news. Have you heard about this?
Again, my news feed is just Chief stuff right now.
What if I told you I'm looking at a story that involves Jake Gyllenhaal, M. Night Shyamalan, and Nicholas Sparks, the writer of The Notebook, in the same story? This is all together. What would you think about that?
Taylor Swift.
What about what?
That's where my mind would go first.
Why?
How are these three connected?
By Taylor Swift.
By Taylor Swift.
I don't even know.
So
this isn't like a 6 degrees of separation game, although it could be.
Jake Gyllenhaal dated Taylor Swift.
Oh, did he?
He did. Long time ago. And then M. Night, some people theorize that his most recent movie about the concert, Trap,
yeah,
that was inspired by some of the hubbub of the Taylor Swift and her tour.
Okay.
And then I'm pretty sure Taylor Swift had a song on a Nicholas Sparks book turned movie.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Here's the actual story.
Okay. It wasn't about Taylor Swift, guys.
Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be in M. Night Shyamalan's next feature, which is going to share a story. It's like a dual thing. It's a story by it's an original romance novel by Nicholas Sparks and by M. Night Shyamalan. Like, it's an original narrative collaboration is what they're calling it, between Sparks and Shyamalan, with the former writing a book and the latter writing a screenplay independently, according to Variety. But somehow they're going to be related.
So I'm going to assume that they talked about the basic premise, then splintered off and wrote their own thing?
Yeah, well, the article says they're not sure whether it's going to technically qualify as an adaptation, but they're tailoring the same story to their respective mediums at the same time. So they have have a story idea, and they're going to tell it in their own ways, which I find fascinating.
It is fascinating. If M. Night was doing an adaptation in the screenplay of a Nicholas Sparks book, I would say he will do a great job. I've seen Stuart Little. He did the screenplay of Stuart Little.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know that.
And yours truly does. So, yeah. But no, if you have a basic premise and you let storytellers tell it in their unique ways, I'm imagining Nicholas Sparks is not going to have a huge twist, but all's going to end well. Mm-hmm. My friend Moon Knight can't help but have huge twist. So, and it might not end well.
Yeah. And in Cody's favorite news this week, according to Hollywood Reporter, Netflix has ordered a Little House on the Prairie reboot.
We're back.
Listen, I don't care who you cast in every role, but Michael Landon's role better be a hologram of Michael Landon. Otherwise, you cannot replace Michael Landon.
So what if instead of the Michael Landon hologram, we get his daughter to play one of the female characters in the show?
I might be down with that. You got to pay tribute to Michael Landon somehow.
His daughter, who was in Yellowstone, could be in this Little House on the Prairie reboot.
Yeah. 40 years, says Hollywood Reporter, after the long-running adaptation of Laura Ingalls Wilder's beloved books aired its last episode on NBC. The new version coming at you from showrunner Rebecca Sonnenschein. And I don't know how I feel about this, but this is the two things listed for her. The Vampire Diaries and The Boys.
Oh.
Which...
those are drastically different.
I don't know, man.
But they're also drastically different from each other, so maybe.
Yeah. We'll see.
I've been to the house.
Yeah. We live in Kansas, man.
Been there. Done that.
This is Little House on the Prairie. Big here.
Yes.
I read the books in elementary school.
I think we were forced to read one.
No, I mean, I wouldn't have read them by choice.
Yeah, no, I definitely was forced to read one. I don't think I read books, plural.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's Pop Culture Lately. Stick around. All right, Cody, it's time. It's time for another edition of Pop Culture Lately. Essentially, what this means is we're just going to talk about the things we've been into in movies, TV, books, video games, whatnot, in pop culture that we really haven't gotten a chance to discuss on the show. Because we really have kind of two pop culture lives going on. We have the stuff that we coordinate with each other and watch for the sake of the podcast.
Little House on the Prairie.
I'm reading the entire book series again, baby. And then there's the stuff we just kind of watch for our own enjoyment, or read, or play, or listen to.
Word.
And that's the stuff that from time to probably a couple times a year, we do a Pop Culture Lately episode. And that's what you're getting here. And, of course, we're going to have a guest on here in a little bit to tell us what he's been into. So, yeah, let's just start with movies. You want to start with movies?
I'm familiar with movies. Sure, why not?
Yeah, what movies have you watched recently that we haven't gotten a chance to really talk about?
We have talked about me watching Nosferatu and how I think Eggers might be one of the better visionary directors of our time.
Yeah.
So I'll touch on that a little bit. But something we haven't talked about is I did watch The Wolfman.
Oh, how was that?
That was actually way better than I thought it would be. I didn't have high hopes. My wife thought it looked good. I'm like, I don't know about this.
Well, The Wolfman's so weird as far as the old horror characters go. Because, Frankenstein has all these, really deep kind of themes running through it. Dracula's got, it seems like there's a lot of different ways you can go with Dracula. Whereas the Wolfman is always just a dude who turns into a wolf when there's a full moon.
So, this one, it takes place in Oregon.
Oh, of course. Did the vampire sparkle? Or is that Washington?
That's Washington.
All right. Pacific Northwest. Close enough.
But they start off by having this thing about an indigenous tribe that talks about this one term, essentially that solo men will eventually become like a werewolf. But they don't use the word werewolf, clearly.
Oh, okay.
It takes place in Oregon. It follows this dad and this son, and they live out in the remote wilderness in Oregon. Beautiful country, by the way. And then they're hunting one day. You see this figure that's kind of blurry and kind of looks a little hairy in the woods. And both of them are scared, and the dad protects the son, and then they get on the CB or the ham radio. They were hamming.
Yeah.
And the kid overhears the dad say, "No, it's real." And then it flash forwards to modern day. This takes place like the kid and dad's in the 90s and then takes place here now. The dad has been missing for several years and is now legally declared dead.
Oh.
And the son is struggling with his wife and daughter in New York City. It does have a commentary, a social commentary, I think, on men in particular. It's not super scary, although there was like one or two kind of you aren't expecting it jump scare type things. And there's not like any nudity and there's not really any graphic deaths. It's a good storytelling.
It's more like suspenseful thriller type stuff.
And then it has this commentary that I think is what the director was getting at. Otherwise, I was reading way too deep into it. But
hey, sometimes we do that.
Yes. We try to find deep meaning in things, and sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. I feel it's there in this one about men, isolation, kind of some stereotypes of men, and what it means to be a good father.
Yeah. I'm going to add that to my list. I've got a movie. I only watched one movie. I find I go through phases where between like movies, TV, books, video games, whatever, I find that I'll focus on one or two of the different mediums in a certain amount of time. And this just happens to be, since we've done this last, where I haven't watched a lot of movies that weren't specifically for the pod, of which, you know, we do episodes on, so you can go back and listen to those. But I did watch a movie finally. I sat down, I forced myself because I was afraid I wasn't going to like it. And it was Geek Scotty had been telling me I needed to watch it. And it was a Kevin Smith movie.
Oh, so it was not Madam Web.
No, I still have not been caught by her web. No, it just still does not connect me. No, I've kind of avoided Kevin Smith's new stuff because here's my fear. My fear is Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. All these movies hit me at a time in my life where I just find that sort of thing hilarious. The stories around what's going on hit me at the right time of life where I identify with the waywardness of a lot of his characters.
I was going to say the social outcast.
Yeah, like Clerks has older guys who work in a convenience store. By older, I meant guys in like their mid-20s. You think of people working, what we would call a service industry job at an older age. And I identified with that because, man, in my mid-20s, I was just kind of lost out there. And so I identified with what they were going through. And then the humor hit harder for me. Now, his humor it's smart, it's intelligent, but it can be vulgar.
A bit vulgar.
And so my fear was, I don't know that this will hit me in the same place. I don't know I will find it funny. And there was always a heart to his stuff. But it was you went to see the movie because it was funny to you, and then the heart would hit you like by surprise. And so I sat down and watched Clerks 3, and I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I didn't like it. It just seems like when he makes sequels to these movies, honestly, there's nothing wrong with the movie. He's telling the story the same way he's always told stories. And it's not even that I've changed that much. I think I still enjoy going back and watching his old stuff. Here's the problem. I don't think I want to see these characters at the age they're at now.
Yeah.
As sad people, which Clerks 3, even though they get to a place where their lives are more fulfilled, it mirrors his kind of journey. He had a heart attack. Did Kevin Smith. One of the characters has a heart attack. It kind of mirrors that. But at the end of the day, I'm just not sure I want to see these characters in that. I wanted to imagine that I left their lives somewhere back after the end of Clerks, and then they turned their lives around and lived normal lives, got married. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it was kind of sad. It had this overall sadness for me. It was fine. It was a fine movie. I just didn't enjoy it like I enjoyed his old stuff. So unfortunately, Scotty, it did not hit me the same way. But I love Kevin Smith. I still love him, and I love his old stuff. And I want to watch his new one, the 4:30 experience, or what's it called? The 4:30 show.
Something like that.
Yeah, about a bunch of young kids who work in a movie theater. I still want to watch that one because I do think he is particularly good at telling these like coming of age kind of stories in a funny way. What else? What other movies did you see?
So I only got one other movie.
Yeah, it's fine.
And it is based off of a book. It is called The Wild Robot. I finally watched it.
Oh, man.
And there were tears. Not by me.
I was about to ask. I was like, what?
4 or 5 times my wife cried. Mm-hmm. And
dude, this one's rough.
So if I had a complaint about this, it's the same complaint I have about Return of the King. That it just ends like 15 different times. Like,
oh,
we could have ended it so many different spots here, buddy.
He's like, any of these endings would be sufficient. Well,
Yes.
they're setting it up.
And
There's going to be sequels to this.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, are we done? Nope. We're back. Are we done? Nope. We're back.
Wild Robot's actually on my list, but the book, because my wife and I we read a chapter of it or a chapter or two, because some of the chapters are pretty short, to my 6-year-old boy before bed. He was really into it. And then they all watched the movie. I saw parts of the movie, but wasn't really super psyched and, sitting there and getting run through the emotional ringer.
Yeah. I'm like, this is a bit much for a kid's movie.
It felt a lot like Iron Giant, in which it's like, this is a trap.
It is a trap.
I feel like I'm going to cry.
Toy Story 3, they'll get you every time, kids.
Yeah. So that's on both of our lists, but in different mediums. Mine was the book, his was the movie. Let's go to TV. What TV shows are you watching? I've got a few here.
Okay, so one that we just wrapped up, and it was a banana show. Not for all audiences. I will start off by saying that. Hysteria! !
Oh, I've never heard of this one.
It's on Peacock, and it has the Bruce Campbell.
Oh, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead. Yeah.
Yes. In 1989, Michigan, a local teenager is killed in what appears to be a satanic murder, and a high school metal band decides to pretend to be Satanist to raise their profile.
Wait a minute. Say the name of the band.
Death Crunch.
Yeah! I'm reading the synopsis. I'm like, that's a great name.
It's an innocent enough game until the entire town gets pulled down a dark path where it's unclear what is real. Local chief of police Ben Dandridge, better known as Bruce Campbell, knows better, and high schoolers can't be capable of this kind of murder. He's correct. While Tracy Whitehead, a local church organizer who, if you saw True Blood, she was the pastor's wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is determined in her mission to save the children from the evil that is waiting to poison them all. Along the way, some are enthralled by it, others are galvanized, and a few are truly horrified. The band unknowingly steps into a craze that rocks everyone, even their own parents, to their core.
Now, what are they playing with? Is this the Satanic Panic?
Yes.
Okay.
And, it is great. So 80s. Julie Bowen's in it from Modern Family. Anna Camp, like I said, who is the pastor's wife in True Blood, and also is Pam Beasley's sister in the wedding episode of The Office. And then randomly, there is the daughter from Hereditary that loses her head.
Spoilers.
Well, if you hadn't seen Hereditary by now, that's on you. That is on you. But in Hereditary, she loses her head. Not in this show. It is funny, but also plays around with some dark humor stuff. And then there's these heartfelt moments, and then like chaos, and then some more funniness. And you kind of get like the teenage coming of age story meets the satanic panic meets over churchy people.
Yeah. Honestly, you had me at Bruce Campbell. I'm in. I'll have to try that out. Add another one to the list. I've recently gotten sucked into Yellow Jackets. I believe you've talked about it on
It's so weird.
Yeah, dude, it's really weird. It's for mature audiences, man. There's a lot of cursing and all sorts of adult things going on in here. But basically, essentially, it is the story of a high school soccer team that gets in a plane crash
in the 90s,
early 90s, into
yeah.
the wilderness, and they get stuck out there for a year and a half. It's very much like, what if we updated Lord of the Flies and then mixed it with a little bit of a supernatural theme and then messed with the narrative, much like Lost, where they're actually telling this story from the future, where they're all not all of them. Some of them are back, and it's very intriguing. In fact, it takes a while to kind of figure out the narrative.
Oh yeah.
Like, I've only watched through the first season. I'm getting ready to start season 2.
Oh, you haven't even gone to some of my favorite moments yet.
Yeah, no, I'm very much still new to the show. But I'm hooked on it. It's wild, and I'm not unsurprisingly, I am more fascinated with the Lord of the Flies stuff.
Yes.
How humans react when you strip away the foundations of civilization.
Season 2, episode 1 or 2, the way the surviving coach, views the girls, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I get it, buddy. I get it.
I've been into that. I've also been into Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Steve Urkel. That's
No,
what I'm thinking.
That's not what everyone's thinking. But Jaleel White does make an appearance. Star Wars Skeleton Crew, you might be thinking, Dave, we thought you weren't as into Star Wars anymore. And the truth is I wasn't. I watched about half The Acolyte, and then I just was like, I'm not into this. And Star Wars didn't capture me anymore. I actually sat down to watch this one again with my 6-year-old who loves Star Wars. Like right now, he just watches all the old movies, and he likes the old stuff too. We argue about whether it's an AT-AT or an AT-AT. Yeah, that's what I tried telling him, and he's vehemently like, no, it's an AT-AT, Dad. And so we just settle on Imperial Walker.
I don't like that.
But I started watching Skeleton Crew with him because I'd heard it was kind of for more kids viewing. Essentially what this is Star Wars mixed with the Goonies. You get these kids from this random planet, and they get kind of basically sucked into this adventure.
Sounds like Nickelodeon hit TV show Space Cases.
Dude, I'm going to be honest right now. First of all, it's great fun. Especially when you're not looking for it to take it too seriously. Like, I know going in, like, hey, this isn't about Darth Vader or the Skywalkers, and I'm good with that. I'm ready for something different. And then what happened to surprise me. This show captured my childlike sense of wonder, not that I hadn't since the original Star Wars movies.
Does it have Rey Skywalker?
It does not.
No Rey Skywalker.
No.
Even though that's not her name.
It's a standalone story. It's wonderful. Jude Law is fantastic in it. I think Jude Law is great. And it's like a masterclass in acting with children, too.
Jude Law of I Heart Huckabee fame?
That would be the one. And so I haven't watched it all the way through. I think I've got a few episodes left because we're watching it slow because, again, I'm watching it with a 6-year-old. We're not exactly binging it here. But it's fantastic. I would recommend it, especially if you're a fan of old Star Wars and Goonies. I can't think of one reason why you wouldn't like this if you like both of those things.
You're piquing my interest a little bit.
You got anything else in TV?
I have one more, and I know, well, technically I have two more. One that I've talked about a little bit, Creature Commandos. I finished the series. It's DC's first project for this new universe that's fully in the universe, because some of Peacemaker is, but some of it isn't.
Yeah.
Shockingly, there was some great storytelling to it. I mean, I shouldn't say shockingly because James Gunn wrote some of the episodes and oversaw everything, but great storytelling, some heartfelt moments. You're like, I don't know why I'm crying over this weasel, but here I am. And when I say me, I mean my wife, not I.
Yeah. Poor Leah. I honestly thought you were going to present more of a push to get me to watch Creature Commandos. I thought I was bracing.
You aren't huge into animated shows, so I'm not going to push it because some people like them, some people don't. I'm okay with them.
Well, thank you.
And so I do think if you want a little bit of a backstory on Papa Flag, it's a good watch.
I appreciate that because I don't like animated shows. But I do have one more show that just came out recently that I haven't watched yet, but it's out there for viewing the first couple episodes. And that's the animated show, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
How dare you? I was so polite and respectful.
It looks kind of cool, Cody. I'm a little excited to watch this one. I think it has more to do with Kid Me because one of my favorite cartoons ever was a Saturday morning cartoon called Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. In this case, that was Iceman and Firestar. So I see this and I see like the animation style and I'm kind of like, ooh, that looks retro. So I'm excited to watch it. The animated series, well, hold on. This is a blurb, so let me do it in my blurb voice. The animated series follows Peter Parker on his way to becoming Spider-Man in the MCU with a journey unlike we've ever seen and a style that celebrates the character's early comic book roots. They race swapped Norman Osborn. That was a big deal.
Is it?
Well, it was a big deal for other people. I find it fairly interesting, actually, because in this cartoon, apparently Norman Osborn's African American. And I'm wondering if he shows up in the MCU regular, will they keep that? But I do have one question. Why do they keep doing that to my redheads? What does Disney have against gingers, Cody? Heimdall, Electro, Mary Jane, the Little Mermaid. What are we doing, Disney?
Dave, I don't know if you've heard this.
Oh.
But gingers don't have souls.
Stop it.
I'm kidding. I have family that are redheads and they are delightful people.
Anyways, after I made the joke about I hate animated stuff, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. But
yes.
Yeah. All right. So should we move on?
So something that's TV-esque. Not necessarily a series, but TV-esque.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I'm wondering where this is going.
Stand-up.
Oh, a stand-up comedy. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going with the new special that debuted like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day from Nate Bargatze. Your friend Nate Bargatze.
I love Nate Bargatze. I absolutely love him. I watched this special as well.
It was delightful.
It just is. He just seems like the kind of guy who would be great to hang out with.
They had him on a show with Kenan Thompson and Kevin Hart, and they're like, do you cuss? And he's like, not really. And they're like, well, you know you can cuss on this show. And they just start dropping bombs left and right. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Do you know he went to Christian school growing up?
I did not know that. And his dad was a magician?
Yeah. I know. He's a weird amalgam. But I recently saw a video of him he donated money, like $1 million to his Christian school to build a new gym. It is nice, bro.
Well, that's nice. He's giving back.
Yeah. It looked really cool.
Like the Christian school kids I went to, or that I knew, they would have had an issue with his dad being a magician.
All right. It is time, Cody, for us to talk to our guest. You want to talk to our guest?
I do want to talk to our guest for a little bit, at least.
That means we have to do something. Cody. To the Geek Phone!
The Geek Phone.
All right. Here we are on the Geek Phone, Cody, with our friend, comedian and storyteller, Taylor Johnson. Taylor, what's happening, buddy?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you this evening?
Oh, so great. I've been looking for an excuse to talk to you again. I can't even remember what the concept of the episode you were on. Do you remember? You've been on an episode of the pod before.
Right. Yeah. I think we talked a little bit about comedy, some comedians, I think. And then I think we did some general pop culture.
So when we talked to you back when, I think you were still kind of doing a lot of things, but you've kind of gone through a transition, maybe more to like a full-time kind of comedian. Can you kind of explain where you're at right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was actually where I was at before COVID and the lockdown and everything. From college all throughout my 20s, I was traveling full-time, doing stand-up, speaking in school assemblies, speaking at churches and events like that. And then really just felt like I was supposed to come off the road for a season, and started talking to a church about that. And it was like, we started talking in January of 2020. So it was like a couple of months before my entire job like disappeared, and like everything I had booked to do completely got canceled. And so it's just very cool that like the door opened before I knew I needed it. And I was on staff at a church for several years, and then just felt like it was time to step back into traveling full time. And last January was the beginning of that. And just kind of like, it was a weird thing of like getting back into something that like was my life full time. And I just kind of felt like it was going to be like flipping a switch and like, yeah, I'll just jump back into it and it'll be so easy. But like the first 3 months was just me sitting around my house going like, what did I used to do all day? Like, how do I do this? What am I supposed to do now? Like, it definitely was a transition. But yeah, I've been traveling and doing comedy, doing a live show, trying to do more stuff on the internet, and a lot of storytelling. I love stories.
Yeah. So Cody and I went to your show.
We did.
And with strong feelings about being alive. And I don't know. I think I know how Cody felt about it. But for me, I don't know if I was able to I was kind of shell-shocked when we got to talk to you afterwards, because I think for me, it was one of the more surreal or unique experiences because I've been to comedy shows.
Yeah, yeah.
But the way that you use storytelling to be funny, to be a comedian, while also wrapping it and intertwining it with this real message of mental health and just the value of humanity in general, I just was blown away, man. I think you're brilliant. I thought that show was great, and I can't wait to see more of your stuff.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I think like it was definitely difficult trying to like explain the show to people and like trying to communicate what I pictured in my head. And so it was just kind of a thing of like, just come see it. Just come. That's the only way to like really get an idea of it, because I do really love that, like being really funny and being serious and like being silly and irreverent and also being meaningful. And like you don't have to choose one or the other. And I feel like that's like the entertainment and the art and the stuff in pop culture that I love is oftentimes this stuff that is like blending a bunch of genres at once. Like it is not just a comedy. It's also a sci-fi. It's also a drama. It's also a, like you don't have to just be one. I don't know. I feel like that's the stuff that I'm drawn to the most anyways.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue into what we're talking about on this episode, because I know that you happen to be a fan of Severance.
Yes.
And we have talked a lot about Severance as we're doing a watch along for it.
We are.
Here on the pod. And especially about the ability to make something like that's a dark show. That's exploring some dark things and some sadness that is palpable. And yet I laugh so much in every episode.
Yeah, it is like heavy and meaningful, and like a lot of the themes are so beautiful, like what it's talking about like being a human and about healing from trauma. And also, yeah, it is so silly, and it is a great mystery like that. Like I love that, like it feels like the perfect balance between the shows that I love where it's like I want to pause every scene and look in the background because there's got to be clues and there's got to be hints about future stuff. But then also like, no, it's also about something. And like the themes of the show are also important. And like, Yeah, I love Severance has been. I keep saying like all of the feelings I had watching Lost live every season, like it's just bringing me back to that excitement for like
sure.
a story.
For sure. That's obviously, we've been talking a lot about that. We also talked a lot about the really deep kind of, but joyful things they're wrapping in that darkness, like what is life, what is consciousness, how life is more expanded than what we think. Like the whole, what am I thinking? The premise of the show and what it means to be severed on that show. It just immediately attaches itself to just all these kind of what we would call hot buttonish issues.
Yeah.
That we talk about all the time as humans. Well, mostly we argue about it, but wouldn't it be great if we could just talk about it? But yeah, so we're big fans of Severance, but we were wondering what else are you into, man, right now? Like what TV, movies, books, video games, anything? What do you got? Music?
Yeah. Man. So what's cool for me is right before season 2 of Severance started, my girlfriend had never watched Lost before. And
me
it has
too.
like, it was the most impactful TV show experience like of my, like, I don't know, especially like storytelling and like the way that they tell the story and the way that they do the twists and the turns and the way that it pulls you in. Like, I don't know, I had never experienced anything like that before. And it was the 20th anniversary of the first episode of the pilot airing like this last year in 2024. And so I asked my girlfriend Jess, like, would you be interested in watching this with me? And we went through all 6 seasons, and it was my first time watching it since the finale. Because like it was such a big deal to me. Like every time a new season would start, I would go back and watch every previous season again leading up to the new season. So like I've seen season 1 the most and season 6 the least, and just like nervous about like, what's it going to be like going back and watching this again? But like, I feel like taking away the suspense of like, not like knowing what the ending is and knowing how it all turns out kind of took the weight off of like the pressure off of like figuring out the mystery, looking for clues, and just like it opened me up to actually just enjoy the show. And like I just felt like I just had moments where I'm like, wow, there's like great acting in this. Wow, man, I didn't even notice that the first time around because I was so obsessed with all the mysteries.
Yeah. Because you can't enjoy the way they're telling this story when you're so wrapped up in it. And like, I've tried to train myself with Severance. In fact, like in one of the watch alongs we've done, I made a remark about something about like how they were narratively the brilliance of so Severance did an episode with the innies and then the outies. And I'm kind of hoping that they keep doing that because that's very Lost-like. Like the way they were toying around with the narrative and how to tell it and from what perspectives. And we mentioned that Severance is going to be a show like Lost where once you know what's happening at the end, that doesn't ruin it. In fact, it makes a rewatch that much better because you spot all these things that you didn't notice the first time around. And how it fits into the story in general and how they were actually telling this story the whole time and showing you some things in plain sight that would have helped you understand what was going on. You just didn't know to look for it.
No, yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I feel like both of the shows, like there is like a depth that like it rewards you for going deep, like for really obsessing and paying attention to stuff. Like even looking online about like theories and stuff about Severance and seeing like all of these little clues that I would never notice on my own. And it's very funny for me, like when talking to friends and trying to like tell them about some of the stuff that I've like, you know, seen online. And I keep trying to make it clear, like someone much smarter than me figured this out. I'm just the messenger. Don't think that I know all this stuff. I'm copying somebody else much smarter than me.
I've tried to tell Cody that back in 2005 or whenever Lost was on, we were actually scouring the internet for theories on quantum physics. That people were writing 20-page treatises on an episode of Lost in quantum physics.
Oh yeah, I do. Like there is like, yeah, man. Like Lost was that type of like piece of art or entertainment that like became like a gateway drug almost. That's probably not the best term for it, but like
but you're
a gateway.
Right.
Probably just gateway. I could have just said gateway. A gateway to like I wanted to learn about writing because of Lost. I wanted to learn about, if a character was reading a book on screen, that meant the book probably had to do with what was going on in the show. So go learn about that book. And so I feel like there are all sorts of things I learned about that I would have never learned about until Lost sent me in that direction. I feel like I'm having the similar thing with Severance.
Yeah, exactly the same way. I love Severance. And yeah, people were really Sawyer was always reading a different book in every episode. And
Too much reading.
And there would really be 20-page summaries on the book, the story of the book, what it had to do with the show, what they thought the writers were trying to say because he was reading that book. I mean, yeah, we went in way too deep, but it was fun. That was the fun of the show.
The thing that I'm trying to do now, well, this is kind of separate, but with Severance airing through March, I have Apple TV Plus for this period of time, which I don't normally have it, but I was trying to, because I knew Severance, I knew when the show was gonna, season 2 was gonna air, and so I tried to start making a list of okay, while I have Apple TV Plus, what do I need to make sure I watch that they have, so that I get my money's worth, and then when Severance season 2 ends, I can cancel it again and just wait for season 3. And so far, the only show that I've really gotten into is I binged Slow Horses way too fast. It's kind of I had so much fun doing it, but man, that's so far the only show on Apple TV Plus that I've really gotten into, and it was so much fun.
Okay, I have no idea what this is. Gary Oldman.
Yes.
Is in it.
So it is one of the things that I love about it, and I feel like Severance has this too. There are so many streaming shows that are a little mini series, 8 episodes. And a lot of times it feels like it was originally planned as a movie. And then some executive was like, hey, if you add a couple of more hours, we could make a TV show out of this. So I feel like there are so many Netflix shows where episode 4 and 5 are a complete waste of time, and then it gets back to the good stuff. But I don't know, it feels like every season there's a couple of episodes you finish and you're like, why did I have to watch that?
That was some of the stuff that would have been left on the cutting room floor when it was a movie.
Yeah. But with Severance, it just feels like every episode is building on top of the last one. It's there's always forward momentum. There's not a moment that feels wasted. And Slow Horses feels that way also, because each season is based on a fun airport paperback British spy novel. So each season is a different book. So in those 6 episodes, it gives you everything. And the premise is, if you work within the British Secret Service or MI5, and you really screw something up, and they're not necessarily going to fire you, but they don't want to trust you with anything important anymore, they send you to Slow Horses.
Nice.
So it's this separate building for the loser rejects that is run by Gary Oldman, who's playing this gross, disheveled looking, he used to be a top agent and now he's in charge of the Slow Horses. And it is surprising how many episodes evolve, not the entire, that makes it sound bad. Gary Oldman farts a lot. His character is just a gross old guy who doesn't care about anything. And so there are just a lot of scenes where he has to talk to an important person within the government, and they're just so gross about being around him. And then he just farts and then walks out of the room. And then people have to, but it's a very I don't know, it's a funny show, but it's also serious, and it's a great thriller. And then there's just Gary Oldman having a lot of fun farting. It's great.
It's uncanny how much my life this sounds like. Apple TV's really got some really good shows. This has 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So this show's been on for a while.
And it's easy to get sucked into it and watch a season in just 2 days, because it is just such a perfect little wrap a bow on it, but then still leaving it open to where you're really interested in what the next season is. That I was super impressed with it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Apple TV's got a lot of great stuff. We talked about it a little bit in our what we're looking forward to in episode in 25. And they don't have as many shows as a lot of the streaming services, but their shows seem to swing for the fences.
Yeah.
Like they just seem to be good. I haven't watched Shrinking either, but that's on my list because people talk about how good that one is. And now I'm gonna have to add this one.
Yeah. I need to figure out more stuff on Apple TV Plus. The Steve Martin documentary, I've watched the first half of it, and that's really incredible. There's a lot of, I don't know. I feel like sometimes when there's a documentary about somebody who's that famous, that there's already a lot of material about that person out there. And almost sometimes it can feel like, what is the point of this documentary? But like, there's so much new footage and like never before. I feel like there is a lot of never before seen footage of him like as a young man, you know, seeing like home movies of him in his apartment, like practicing his stand-up set before going to a club, and like just seeing him like being awkward and insecure because he's just by himself, and like, I don't know, just like a lot of like access to him that I've never seen before. And like, I really love that.
Now, this is, I always feel stupid asking this question. You've watched Ted Lasso?
Yes. So okay. I have not finished the last season.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
You got, okay. So that's on your list. You got to watch season 3 because it's got the best deep themes going on in it.
Oh, okay.
In particular, I'll just give you a little preview. The Sunflowers episode 6, which I contend is one of the best hours of television ever made.
Ooh, okay.
I think has a subtle reference to Shalom in it. And that's all I'll tell you. You can watch it and see if you can figure it out.
Okay. Oh, I'm very excited
and
about
then
that.
you can go back and listen to our watch-alongs episode on that.
Hey, there we go.
Shameless plug.
But I've also watched Bad Monkey, which...
Oh, yeah, the Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, it's a good show. I don't know that I would recommend it to anybody unless you just like Vince Vaughn. Because Vince Vaughn has a certain style about him. He's kind of sarcastic and smarmy, which I just kind of love. I love Vince Vaughn all the way back to like his initial appearance.
Jurassic Park 2.
In Swingers with Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it, but just for its Vince Vaughniness. It's kind of like a goofy caper movie where he's a detective, or not a movie, but a goofy caper show. Where he's a detective, but it's good stuff. Apple TV's great. What else are you into?
Man, I'm super excited about the new season of the British TV show Taskmaster.
Oh, man,
Have either of you watched Taskmaster?
No.
Is this a Marvel villain?
No. I wish Taskmaster was at the heart of this TV show. That would make it a very different show.
This says British game show.
Okay, it's all on YouTube for free. They put it up themselves. It is a group of comedians, a different group every season. They compete with these like ridiculous tasks individually. So like they go off and record a bunch of stuff on their own where it's just them and one of the co-hosts, and they get like an envelope that has whatever task they need to complete, and they just have to figure out how to do it on their own. And then months later, they all come together in front of a live studio audience and show what everybody did and how they did it. And a lot of it is like trying to find loopholes. Since it's a lot of comedians, it's basically like, how can I mess up the rules, or how can I like, what doesn't the instructions say that I'm allowed to like do to like, I don't know, succeed in an outside the box way. So like, that's why it's like fun to see comedians figuring out solutions to these problems. And the great thing is, if you are in if you're at a church, if you're a community leader, if you are in any sort of situation where you have to figure out games to play with students or a large group of people, Taskmaster's website has a database of every challenge they've ever had. And it's categorized by like what items you might need, what type of challenge it is. So like, it would be like if you had to do a retreat or a camp and you needed to figure out fun games to play, it would be the perfect resource. But the comedians are so funny. The challenges are a lot of fun. And the new season is going to have an American comedian, Jason Mantzoukas, who's been on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place. He's so
Parks
funny.
and Rec.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
Yeah, he was the cologne guy.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Yeah. He is the first American comedian who reached out to Taskmaster just to say like, hey, can I come over there and do your show? And they were like, yeah, we've never had somebody ask. And so seeing the trailer and they revealed who all was going to be in it and seeing him, it's a really fun watch.
Okay, I'm gonna have to mark that. These kind of shows, I always end up with a list of things to add to my already ever growing list of things I need to watch. Let's get back to you. You've got a new big video out. It's almost like a mini movie, but it's called Milk Voyage, or How Not to Follow Your Dreams. Tell people about this.
So with the live show that I'm traveling with right now, Strong Feelings About Being Alive, it is me telling like one long story and kind of weaving a bunch of different stories together into one big piece. And as I'm traveling around with this, I kind of figured like it would be good to have more examples of like what it looks like when I do a live show. And I had all of these videos on YouTube when I was traveling full time back before COVID. When there was a period of my life where I was living in my van. I bought a minivan and I lived in it as I traveled the country. And I did a lot of vlogging during that time. I did a bunch of stuff where I have so much footage from like a large chunk of my life where I did a lot of things just to see if I could get a story out of it. And for a while, I had a bunch of YouTube videos where it was kind of me telling the story in the moment about the stuff that was going on. And it was a couple of years ago that I went back and looked at some of those videos and just realized like, man, the story is good. The footage is good. I just don't think I did a very good job telling the story here. And now that I've been working on this new show and kind of feel like I figured out how to do more long form storytelling, I want to go back and try to retell some of those stories. And so I took a ton of my videos off of YouTube. I have external hard drives full of all of this footage. And I want to make a series of these, but I started with this first story of the time that I had always wanted to milk a cow. And I don't know why. I don't know where the idea first came from, but I wanted to do it. And then finally one day I got on Facebook and I just asked, hey, does anyone know a cow I can milk? And a friend said he knows a dairy farmer and hooked me up. And I went out to this dairy farm. I got to milk a cow. I tried raw milk straight from a cow. And then like, that's really where the story starts. Yeah. And it goes to a very surprising place about meeting this dairy farmer. And he kind of teaches me some life lessons, surprisingly. And so the idea of it is kind of a half-hour comedy storytelling special. It's not in front of an audience, but it's kind of like, here's one long story for 30 minutes that kind of gives a feel of what it's like to see me live. And so it kind of goes off on tangents. There's like different, I don't know, silly stuff, but the main story is me going to this dairy farm where I feel incredibly awkward because I've never been to a farm before. I don't know how to act. I don't want to get in trouble. But this dairy farmer who was the coolest dude ends up like blowing my mind and just becomes the most like encouraging person. And I don't know. So it was a lot of fun to work on this video and finally put it out there.
Well, I'm excited to watch it. I laughed just at the trailer, the little short you put out of him squirting the milk on you.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which was really hilarious. So I'm excited to watch this. And for all the listeners, we will post the link to his video as well. If you want to follow him on YouTube, it's at Taylor, Taylor, at Taylor Johnson Video. And I would invite you to go subscribe to his stuff because I really like what you do, Taylor. I think it's brilliant. I think it's genius. And I think as people discover you, you're only going to grow. And I just want nothing but the best for you.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. Thanks, man. That means so much.
Ditto.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was fun. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We'll see you next time, buddy.
All right. See ya.
All right, Cody. It's always fun to get to talk to our friend Taylor Johnson.
During his stand-up, I can say he did a phenomenal job of doing what we in the therapist circles like to call doing a golden thread, where everything connects and you don't necessarily see it until you get to the end, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And as I told him, He's every once in a while doing this kind of a show where we talk about pop culture and we talk about celebrities and people who are big. Even doing a podcast where, like, I'm glad the people that listen, but we're not big by any stretch of the imagination.
How dare you?
If there's someone that deserves to be big, like, it's Taylor. Like, Taylor, he's such a sweet dude. He really loves people. And he really he enjoys telling stories and being funny. But I think what he enjoys most of all is just loving people.
And I like that. Yeah. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm here for it too. It's good dude. So really excited he got to come on. We got to finish up our pop culture lately though. We're going to run through books, video games, and what the listeners are into, but we're going to do it in a kind of a bonus level style. We're going to race through these. So what do you got with books?
Batman, The Long Halloween. I just started it. So far, so good. Also, Court of Owls, really good.
Graphic novels, baby.
Yes. Sandman, The Dream Hunters. That's a Black Label DC property. So exciting stuff. And then there is this book that came out, I believe, in 2017. It's called Little Heaven by Nick Cutter. And my wife started listening to this. It was an audiobook that we were listening to on a road trip. And it's about a trio of mercenaries hired by someone that was very deceptive. It also involves a cult.
Oh, my.
And maybe a deal with the devil. And like forever and a day, you're like, am I listening to the correct book? Because like the overview of the book talks about this cult a lot, and it doesn't talk about the cult for like the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it was really good to listen to, and you can actually read it.
What was the name of that one?
Little Heaven.
Okay.
By Nick Cutter.
That does sound interesting. I'm glad you mentioned an audiobook because I don't have a book per se, but I do have a book entry here that I've been into. But it's actually an app. So it's this app called Herdly. Have you heard of this, Herdly?
You're making stuff up.
I'm not. This app it's an app that breaks books down into its main thoughts and takeaways into like 8 to 10 minute audio summaries. So I have listened to 8 to 12 minute audio summaries of these books. The Classical World in Bite-Sized Chunks by Mark Daniels, which if you're thinking about it, it's kind of hilarious because he's already breaking it down into bite-sized chunks, and I had the app break it down even further.
That's a bit intense.
Why I Believe, A Psychologist's Thoughts on Suffering, Miracles, Science, and Faith by Dr. Henry Cloud. We Who Wrestle with God, who you may know, is by Jordan B. Peterson, who's kind of a big name, hot button name.
Yes.
And I listened to Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI by Yuval Noah Harari, which you may remember I brought up as something I wanted to read on a recent What We Were Looking Forward to. Not the last one, but 2 times ago, I think.
Yes.
And so I listened to that. It's interesting. I'm not sure it's super effective. I won't know until I have a reason to access anything I may have or may not have learned. But that hasn't happened yet.
Yep.
And is it possible I may have learned nothing and only accomplished to bombard my ears with more noise? Certainly, that's possible. But I thought it was an interesting enough concept I'd give it a try. So that's what I've listened to so far, is those 4 books in 10 to 12 minute chunks, audio summaries breaking down the main points for me. I mean, it is kind of detailed. I could see where some people might find it boring because if you're going to break down some of these things into main points, it can be very technical.
It can be. And I definitely think there's a market for that because there's a lot more people that are just like, give me the highlights.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could do that. I want to, but then in my heart of hearts, I'm like, what if there's something they miss? And then I got FOMO, and I usually don't get FOMO.
I'm not sure that it's going to work out for me, but I thought it would be something that it would be good for a book I'm interested in, but I know I'm not that interested in. And so if I know that and know how busy I am, I'll probably never get around to reading it.
Wicked.
I already read Wicked a long time ago when it came out.
I've been told the writing style's different.
Yeah, it's a different kind of book, but Wicked is a good book. I would recommend that, and it's a little bit more dark than obviously the Broadway musical and the movie made from the Broadway musical. What else you got? What other categories do you have anything in? Just video games?
I have music.
Oh, you have some music. Hit me with your music.
But what was old has been made new again. So I had switched streaming providers for my music.
Oh.
And so I'm like, I've been missing random songs. And so I've been doing deep dives into music I do like. So Talking Heads.
Oh.
I do enjoy some Talking Heads. Like random one-hit wonders like Harvey Danger.
Okay.
From the 90s.
Yeah.
And then like old school Steppenwolf and the Doors.
Nice. Dude. Do you got a blacklight in your house?
When I was a teen, yes. Not anymore.
Yeah.
I put that all behind me, but knowing some people that have talked about what they're into being some retro stuff, that is my retro stuff. It's music right now.
I just have this mental image of you at your house listening to the Doors with just your black light on. Your incense is burning. Yeah.
It's a lot like Wayne's World 2.
I hadn't planned on saying this, but I've been really into music-wise the Eagle Rock gospel singers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and nobody's probably heard of them. If you feel like they're very like folkish, but with like a soul R&B kind of mixture to it. If that sounds like something appeal to you, check them out because, yeah, they're not big. I just happened upon them and I love them.
And what's the name again?
The Eagle Rock Gospel Singers.
Okay.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're very, very amazing. They kind of remind me of the Civil Wars in a way.
Okay.
But even more folky. Like the Civil Wars were like, what if we did this for pop audiences? You know, it's good stuff.
I also should list Gordon Lightfoot.
Because we just hadn't gone in 90s enough. Is that 90s?
No.
No?
No.
Who's Gordon Lightfoot?
The dude from the 70s that...
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sang about a shipwreck on like Lake Erie or one of the Great Lakes, yes.
We've talked a little bit on our own about how we're fans of Civilization.
Oh, yeah. Woo-woo. Civ
7 comes out really soon.
It does.
And in preparation for that, and after talking you, because you had been playing Civ 6.
Nonstop, really.
Yeah, and so I thought, oh, man, I always forget that there is a version of it on the Xbox. And I got Civ 6 for like $2.99. It was like on sale.
Yes.
And so I've been playing that on the Xbox. And, man, if you've never played Civilization games, like it's the ultimate one more turn game.
Oh, the barbarians make me so mad.
Yeah, the barbarians are very annoying in the first part of the game.
Have you gone to the point where you can have a gigantic robot?
No, I have not.
Oh, that is fun.
I usually don't make it that far because I like the beginning of the game.
Yes.
I like the development of the civilization, I find. Once you start getting into like, usually, so I'll play for a long, long time, like literally hours of game time spent. And then you'll get into modern day military and stuff like that. And then America will attack you. And I'm like, I hate this game. This game's stupid.
So if you get a gigantic death robot, you can wipe out so many capitals.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
And if you get 2 of them, it goes fast. And you can drop nukes left and right.
Yeah.
It becomes violent real fast.
Do you have anything else? Anything else at all before we get to what other people are into?
Just been replaying Skyrim.
Yep. There you go. We have some input from other pods. I asked some other podcasts.
Oh, snaps.
The Doom Generation podcast, which always ranks near the top of the good pods stuff. They're an indie podcast, but good people.
Quality.
They say, my co-host has been really into the new Matlock, which they are not alone. I've heard several people.
My parents watch it. My mom is disappointed it's not like the old Matlock. But my dad's like, it's so much better. So
They also say Doom Generation podcast also says they're excited Severance is back and they enjoyed the first 2 episodes.
Oh, good stuff.
To which I will just say, hey, we have a watch along pod if you want to,
Or if you ever
beat
want
the
to
drum for us.
collab on one episode.
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that. Maybe the Doom Generation podcast would like to do an episode of watch alongs with us. The Screen Nerds podcast says they really liked A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie.
Oh, hey. Yeah.
They said it has
Timothy.
Yeah, really great performances. So they are all over that. Also, they said on TV, The Pit is actually really good. Have you seen this?
Oh, I've seen it advertised.
It said, interesting premise of a medical show from the guy behind West Wing and ER. Stars Noah Wiley from ER.
They were advertising the ever-loving nerd out of it while I was on Max the other day. So, yes, it does look intriguing.
It's got a weird backstory that I invite everyone to look into and watch watch the show because apparently it started off as a sequel to ER. He was going to play the same dude and then a lot of red tape happened and I don't really remember. I remember reading an article.
Free Noah Wiley.
Well, they did. Now now the show works completely on its own. So
literally, I thought that he might have died or his career for sure died after Donnie Darko.
Was he in Donnie Darko? I don't even remember that.
Yes, he was the science teacher.
Oh, wow. So now it's time to check what our listeners have been into. The first is Kiefer, our friend Kiefer Storer.
From Walla Walla.
From Walla Walla, Washington. He's actually been on the show. He was on our Iron Claw episode.
Yes.
He says he's been really into 10 Months of Courage.
I love it.
He's joking around. That's his book.
It is his book.
He wrote a book. But because he brought it up, I'm gonna read the blurb for his book in my blurb voice.
Please.
I figured this was the perfect time to do so. So here we go. This is the blurb from 10 Months of Courage by Kiefer Storer. Student government president Paul Ambrose starts his senior year with the wind at his back and a meticulous focus on academia. But life, love, and politics complicate things. Set in 2012-2013 against the backdrop of the pop culture of then and the past, 10 Months of Courage is a time capsule of a coming-of-age story dissecting love, loss, and adversity.
That's my friend Kiefer.
Yeah. I hope I just sold 10 of his books.
Tens of tens, maybe.
10 Months of Courage. By the way, he was joking. He said 10 Months of Courage. But my real answer is I'm reading a lot of Sally Rooney. So if you don't know, Sally Rooney is an Irish author, screenwriter. She's published 4 novels, Conversations with Friends, Normal People, Beautiful World, Where Are You, and Intermezzo. The first 2 were adapted into the television miniseries, Normal People and Conversations with Friends. So she's one of the foremost millennial writers, I'm told.
In your face, other millennial writers.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay. David Allen from Florida says he's been rewatching some WCW. I like to think that we were the inspiration for that.
La Parka.
He said mainly because I miss WCW being around. Same. But also the Pokemon anime, because me and Becca is his wife, enjoy it together. And he said he's been playing a lot of Mario and Luigi Brothership, because I'm a big fan of Mario RPGs. Is that a new game? I don't have a Switch.
I don't either. If someone wants to donate a Switch.
Yeah. We had a Switch, but my kids weren't careful with it. They damaged the plug-in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where it plugs in.
I didn't realize that there was a Nintendo network that you can pay a subscription for and play all the old school games on the Switch.
Yes.
From the 64 and the Super Nintendo and all that jazz.
Yeah. Paul Myers from right here in Chanute, where we live, says, I tried Squid Game for the second time and now I can't stop watching. So him saying he tried it implies maybe it didn't take the first time, but now he's really into it. Have you watched Squid Games?
Or is he watching the second season? I don't know. I have not. I have watched 2 episodes of the Mr. Beast version of Squid Games, but it's a reality show. Because my nephews were like, It's Mr. Beast.
I think I'm kind of YA dystopia'd out.
Yep.
And so, like, I understand that people like it, but I'm just kind of over that for a while. I'm not over it because I do kind of like that, but there were just so many of them, and I'm just, I don't know.
I gotta
feel like it'd be a
save it
slog.
for the OGs.
Paul said he also started reading Dune for the first time. Now, I know several people who are going back to read the original Dune novels.
If it's anything like any of the movies, it's too long.
He also said go Chiefs, which, yeah, that's kind of been...
I'm into the Chiefs as well, Paul.
People around these parts, that's been a big deal. And he also says, if you haven't played Astrobot on the PS5, it's not even a question. It's a must. I beat the game and now just working 100%ing it. This is a platform game. Is this like PlayStation's Mario? This Astrobot? Have you seen this?
I don't have a PlayStation, Dave, so
I know.
I don't get my hopes involved in the world of the PlayStation because I'm like, it will only lead to devastation
That's
and
sad.
longing.
Man, that was just sad. Jim Smith from New Jersey says Larry Correa and Brandon Sanderson are my current favorite authors. Larry Correa, an American fantasy and science fiction writer known for his Monster Hunter International, the Grim Noir Chronicles, and Saga of the Forgotten Warrior series. Brandon Sanderson, similar, an American author of high fantasy, science fiction, and young adult books, most notably known for the Mistborn series and the Stormlight Archive.
Nice.
Yeah, so Jim's into that right now. He's also said The Last Ronin kind of sucked me back into TMNT.
It will do it.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the new cartoon and the comics, which we talked about The Last Ronin here on the pod at some point. It was really good.
Yes, in a comics conclave, a long forgotten bit that we had.
Randy Melton, also from this area, says the original Scooby-Doo. He's been watching the original Scooby-Doo.
I don't blame you. It's quality.
He says it's good for the soul.
It is.
More importantly, I happen to know that Randy Melton, who'd been on a list for a new kidney for a long time, recently got the call and got his new kidney. So,
hey, bravo.
Randy,
we're excited for you.
Super happy for you. Praying for a good recovery, man. I'm just so stoked that you got that kidney. Andrew Town from Wyoming.
That's a ways away.
He says, I'm old school. I've been watching Matlock, but not the new one. He's watching the Andy Griffith one.
So has my mom.
I like Andrew. Andrew's fun. David Harrison, who is in law enforcement in nearby Iola.
Oh, okay.
He says Dragon Ball Daima. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's been years since the Boo saga, and I've been wondering how Goku and Vegeta were able to get so strong as to be able to take on Beerus. I have no idea what he just said.
Dragon Ball Z.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
And yes, I know the characters. I don't know how they got that strong either, buddy.
Beerus sounds good, or maybe I'm just hungry. I don't know. And finally, Will Montgomery from California says the Dune books. Since the new movies were fantastic, he's been reading the Dune books.
I will say I actually have thoroughly enjoyed the two new movies. Both still a little long, but I am constantly yelling out Lisan al-Gaib.
He says building the movie around the planet as if it were a character. It's a stroke of genius. Anticipating that the third movie, Dune Messiah, will be equally impressive. Also, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, which is apparently a video game.
Yes.
And he says, because who doesn't like to shoot aliens in the face or just squish their heads with your bare mitts?
That's what I'm about.
Will's scaring me right now. That seems brutal. He said it's a good third-person shooter.
I'm down with a good third person, and also evidently Warhammer is where it's at, and no one ever invites me or tells me about the Warhammers.
I know. I was like, Will is an adult in California, and at first I thought he was saying he plays Warhammer, the role play, with
Yes.
friends, and I'm like, who has time for Warhammer and friends? You have both? What are you, a wizard?
So, Baldur's Gate 3 is a video game, but it's like D&D.
Uh-huh.
And like everyone, their mom also plays that.
So do you play that online with like friends? Is that what it's meant to do?
I don't know.
We're so clueless with video games. We need a video game geek.
I have been stuck on Skyrim for the past 15 years, so...
I mean, I've been playing Civilization 6, but mostly I play the same games I always play, like PUBG. I just play PUBG. And then I yell at people when they don't play on the team right, the squad. Because I don't have my own squad. I don't play enough to be like, have friends. I got no friends.
Sometimes I do team up with friends and we play Call of Duty.
I hate Call of Duty.
Or Gears of War.
I hate Gears of War.
I'm not huge on them, but if the friends are playing, I'm like, I will sacrifice.
I tried playing Call of Duty with people because a lot of people were playing with it and playing it. Friends were playing it. And I'm just so terrible at it.
Kill the zombies.
That's, yeah. I told someone the other day, this is unrelated, that I think subconsciously I'm worried about a zombie pandemic because I like to keep my shoe soles very comfy. And there just seems to be a lot of walking if you're turned into a zombie.
You'll have to stop at shoe stores along the way.
I'm just trying to think ahead. All right. What stuff in pop culture have you been into lately? I'm very fascinated to hear from the listeners we haven't heard from here. Tell us what you've been into, what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're playing, video games, what you're reading. Share those with us on the social media posts for this episode. And as always, make sure and subscribe, share these posts, share us with your friends. Thank you so much. We're still going, Cody.
We are.
Week after week. Oh, I should also say, hey, as long as we're talking about lately and what's coming up here, we will be at a Comic-Con in February in Garden City, Kansas, called BusterCon.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's coming up. I think February 15th. It's a Saturday.
Happy Valentine's Day weekend to you.
Yeah, so we'll see you there, Garden City. I'm excited about that. Till next time.
Peace out.
See you later. Adios. Bon voyage.
Arrivederci.